Greetings, I am Tom Earl. On this week's episode, we talk personal growth, religion, and comedy with Ameerah Sanders. Check it out.
Do it.
Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of grace. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, it means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment, just where you are and as you are loved and you are appreciated. As you can see, I am not alone. I have an amazing guest. She goes by the name of Ameerah Sanders.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm well.
High five worthy? Boom.
Yes.
So for the folks out there who don't know who you are yet, and even for the folks who do,
Okay.
can I add to their knowledge of your powerful and awesomeness?
By all means.
Okay, let me read
Yes.
the bio. Let's do it that way. Here we go. I'm really good at reading bios.
Yes.
Something I'm known for. Ameerah Sanders. See?
Yeah.
That's how you do it right
Very
there.
powerful.
Ameerah Sanders is a stand-up comic, writer, and filmmaker based in Kansas City, MO. Her comedy comes from her post 9/11 Black Muslim background and her current post-college life. She hopes to connect with other people of color and serve as an example that the life of a Black woman is not inherently political. She's performed at the Hollywood and Kansas City Improv. She'll be at the Cream City Comedy Festival in... I'll give you a clue where it is. It's the best city in the entire world. Voted by 1 out of 1 people. You guessed it. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And that'll be... Yes, indeed. That'll be May 9th through the 12th.
Yes.
And Art of Female Comedy Fest, June 12th through
In
13th.
Wichita, Kansas.
In Wichita. I was going to ask where that is.
Yeah. I forgot to write that down.
It's all good. That's a pretty dope bio.
Thank you. I wrote it myself in like 2 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you said it so quick. I was like, oh, she must have already had that.
Oh, no.
That's awesome. Well, that's interesting because usually people who don't have a bio already, it's one of the hardest things for them to put together.
I really should have a set bio that I just send to people, but like, I'm just now entering an area where I should probably have like a page that people can go to. And I should probably have a set bio and like all this stuff, but I don't because I guess I'm just like, maybe I doubt my own importance in that regard. It's just like, oh, I'm just me. Here you go. I don't know.
I was going to say it's the opposite. For me, I think the fact that in 3 seconds you're able to just speak to who you are in such a succinct and powerful way, whereas most people when they say they're like, I don't know, I was born. It kind of speaks to, I think, a sense of self-knowledge and self-confidence.
I feel like in the past year I've done a lot of growth, so I do think I'm more in tune with myself and able to just be like, yep, here I am, take it or leave it, you know what I'm saying?
So that was a year thing? Took a year?
I mean, it took way more than a year, but I feel like I crossed a certain threshold like this past year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, take us back. You said it took longer than a year.
Yeah.
Where would you, if you were to drop like a Google map, the yellow, like, you know, the
little pinpoint thing? Yeah.
But in your life.
Okay.
Where would you start it?
I would start it probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
I lived in Japan for a year in Nagasaki.
Okay.
And the experience for me wasn't good.
Okay.
I became severely depressed, and like when I got back home to America, I thought, you know, I could leave the depression in Japan and like just be fine when I got back, but that was not the case. So when I got back to America and I realized like how bad I had gotten, I like made a conscious effort to do everything I could to not feel the way I was feeling in order to like enjoy life and things like that. So it's taken many years of therapy, medication, different relationships with people, locations, just all of this stuff that I did to just try to build myself up to a point where I was comfortable in my own skin and okay with being me. Yeah.
Well, what were you doing in Japan?
So I took a Japanese course in a freshman year because I really liked Japan and anime and stuff like that. And I was like trying to balance what my mom wanted for me in college with what I wanted. So like she wanted me to do like linguistics or like pharmacy school. I'm like, Mom, I'm bad at math. Why would you want me to kill somebody's grandparents apparently. But so I was like, okay, cool. I will be like a Japanese like international studies major because like it's something I'm interested in and something my mom will be okay with. So we had like this really kooky Japanese teacher. This is a white guy from Kentucky. Like he's really good at what he does. Like he knows the language really well. I honestly think he would have been a great drama teacher because he just has this huge personality. And like he really puts on a show. And one of his former students caught wind of some government-funded scholarships for foreign students to come study in Nagasaki. So once he found out about that, he wouldn't teach us Japanese anymore. He just like the whole class time he would just be like, here's why you need to go to Japan, and if you don't go to, you're dead to me. Like he didn't say that exactly, but it was pretty much go. And so like me and a bunch of other really impressionable, like I was 17 at the time. Wow. So it's just like me and a bunch of other impressionable freshmen were like, I guess we gotta go live in Japan. You know, like teacher says we have to. And so I did. And I will say I went into it with very naive expectations because I kind of fetishized the culture with like anime and like all this stuff. I thought, that was like all of it. When of course culture is much more nuanced. And so me on top of me being naive and also me being like one of 5 Black people at the entire international school and also probably one of the only English-speaking Muslims at that school that was like openly wearing like hijab and stuff. It was a very isolating experience because I was over there during Ramadan and stuff, and I tried to like the nearest mosque from where I was staying was like 2 hours away by train. Yeah, so it was a ways. So I had to like do that like alone when I was used to having like my whole community around me. Yeah. So like that was a bit of like where it started to tip off for me was like that isolation that I had. Like whenever people would go out with all like the other Japanese students and the American students, they go to like Nomi Hodai, which is like all you can drink. And at the time I didn't drink alcohol. And I was like, why would I pay $30 thereabouts to eat like snacks and drink water? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it wasn't like financially reasonable for me to go to these like outings. And that seemed to be kind of the only time people would like get together and have fun and stuff like that. And so it just kind of was like really isolating. Yeah.
So then you came back and started to take steps to, as you were saying, rebuild your confidence and everything like that. Is it one of those situations where people are always like, I'm so glad I went through this? Or is it like, I wish I didn't go through it at all?
It's really difficult because everything that has happened in my life has led up to this moment in my life right now, and I'm feeling pretty good. Like I wouldn't have met my boyfriend that I've been with for over a year now if I hadn't gone through all I've gone through. I wouldn't have met my friends. I wouldn't have started stand-up. So it's like, if I want to keep the life I have now, then yeah, I would do it again. It's just, it was very painful, so I'm like reluctant to be like, oh yeah, I'd go through it again, get where I am today. Like, it happened. Like, I would prefer it had not. Yeah. But it did, and that's okay. And I'm not there anymore. I'm here, so that's all that matters.
What would your advice be to somebody maybe who's at the beginning or middle?
Keep going. It gets very, very painful sometimes to where you don't think you can stand it. And like no matter what your friends say, what your mom say, like what anybody says, like that voice in your head is so loud and you can't hear anything else. But as time goes on, you'll be able to be louder than that voice, and that it's an endurance run. It's not a sprint. It's not like, oh, if I do this one thing, I'll be better. It's just, if you can keep going, if you can push past that uphill part, like everything will your hard work will not be in vain. You know what I'm saying?
I do. So we started talking about putting the Google Map person on the trajectory of your life of where you feel like you really started to find your voice. So you said going to Japan, working through all that, that's where you put the dot. Where would be the next part of where you felt like was the next milestone?
So after I got back from Japan, I was at Mizzou. That's in Columbia, Missouri. They're famous for their journalism school and racism. So that's what we're known for. Go Tigers.
A lot of stuff to journal about that.
Right? And it gave me an environment where I could do the things that I was afraid to do when I lived at home. I realized that I'd been following Islam. I'd been not doing certain things or doing certain things, not because I wanted to, but because my mom raised me to do those things. And of course I wanted my mom to be happy with me. So I would just do those things. And when I realized I wasn't doing it for me or for God, but for my mom, I realized that I could do things that made me happy, And so once I realized that, I stopped wearing hijab just to see like how it would make me feel, and I tried to like hang out with the other hijabis there, but that community was mostly North African people of Arab descent, and me being African American, I felt like I wasn't a part of that group. Like I would try to hang out with them and they'd just be speaking Arabic the whole time. And I didn't understand Arabic. So I just kind of sat there like, okay, yeah. And like just a lot of their bonding was culturally based, and I couldn't relate to that. And it was kind of that cultural bonding was equated to religious bonding, like as if the culture was religion pretty much. And so I felt out of place. And also whenever I interacted with people that I would try to be friends with, like the hijab would just like throw them off. They'd be like, oh, I can't talk to this girl in any kind of, like I can't be myself, or I can't speak freely because she's like, they just kind of labeled me as like a really like religious person. And so I took it off hoping that would allow people to see me and for me to be able to see other people for like who they actually are. And I found that I liked it. I found that I felt I was able to be myself more. Like I wasn't a representation of an entire people anymore. And I wasn't like the odd hijabi out because I didn't share the same culture. I was just Ameerah. And that's what I've always wanted. And so I just started branching out more. I really wanted to be in a relationship, typical like 17, 18-year-old stuff. And like I did have one. It was like my first one. I was like right after I turned 20. He was like 24. We started dating, and he was like my first kind of experience with that. And it sucked. Like it was very short-lived. Like at the time I was still like pretty I was still practicing. And like I told him, I was like, hey, like I wasn't wearing the hijab, but I was still practicing. And I was like, hey, look, if you're going to date me, like I'm not going to do anything like with you like that. Like we can hang out and stuff, but like that's off the table. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. That's fine. No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Lies.
Yeah, like and I also told him like, hey, I'm depressed. Like I'm not gonna be fun all the time. Like I was very upfront with him about where I was at in my life, what I was gonna do, what I wasn't gonna do, and he was like, okay, word, that's cool. And I thought, okay, awesome. Why would anybody get involved in something they don't actually want to be in?
Yeah.
You know? But apparently he did. So like instead of manning up and like talking to me about it and like how this wasn't what he was looking for, he just like stopped talking to me. Like he just slowly exited my life, you know? And it was really devastating for me because I mean, I fully trusted him, like, just blindly, like, oh, he's going to be honest with me up front and forthcoming. No. So it was like, I broke up with him in, like, a rage. And he was like, yeah, fine, bye. Like, he wanted me to break up with him so he wouldn't have to. I don't know. It was weird. I was like, why did you just break up? It doesn't matter. But yeah, for like 2 months, I tried to talk to him and like get closure or whatever. And like it was awful emotionally, but it also just kind of propelled me to do even more things for myself that I would never have considered before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like I started dating more, figuring out like what I wanted, and also like where my own head was at, because like am I dating because I want like to not be alone, and like I feel like I need someone else in order to like be fine, or am I dating because I feel like I'm actually ready to date? And like for most of the time from then until now, it was like I wanted a relationship so that I could love on someone and someone could love on me, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like I'm a very affectionate person, and I'm a very loving person, and I want to like give love to people. But it took some time for me to learn that not everybody deserves that. You know, you just can't give it to anybody because then they'll do whatever with it. So yeah, like that sort of like dating thing, and then me like discovering my style. Like my mom would always have like restrictions on like what me and my sister would wear, and so when I finally reached the point where I was like brave enough to actually start dressing how I wanted to dress, like I started wearing more colors and styles, and like it helped me become even more comfortable in my own skin. Another thing, like I was really lonely when I got back, so I was like, okay, you're lonely, go make some friends. So like I went to parties and I joined like the improv group at Mizzou in order to like find like my people. It was a lot of trial and error, and the improv thing didn't really work out because once again, like I was the only black girl there. I was surrounded by like a bunch of like white kids that have, white kids in comedy can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Extra?
A bad mixture?
It's like, they're I don't know, they can say things and it's like, oh, that's not okay, but I'm the only one here to object to that. And when I did, like I straight up told them, I was like, yo, this group is like real white. Like y'all need some diversity up in here. And like I created my own sort of position, like diversity chair, where I would set up joint meetings with the improv group and then like a minority group like Asian American Association, QTPOC or whatever, to like show other people of color that, hey, there's an improv group here, and like you can do it too. Like you can also enjoy this art form as well, because it can be kind of daunting to walk into a room full of white people and being like, okay, like I just have to go with what they think is funny in order to like fit in. And I've never been that kind of person. So when I realized that my humor wasn't matching with theirs and that they had some internalized racism that they had to deal with. They weren't bad people, but there were behaviors that it would take too much out of me to address and try to educate like 40 of these kids about like, hey, maybe you shouldn't say that. Or like, hey, you guys, I'm trying to hang out with you and be your friend, but all you white girls want to hang out by yourself and like don't want to include, okay, fine. You know, like a lot of people left because of the cliquishness, but for me especially, it was the fact that I was like the only outspoken black woman in that group, and I was like, nah, this is not for me. It took a lot for me to get to that point because I was like, I need friends, like I'm really lonely, I want to find connection with people, so I stayed for way longer than I felt like I should. But when I finally did leave, it was around the time that I broke up with my first boyfriend. I started doing stand-up because I was like, I still want to do comedy, but I don't want to have to rely on anybody else, so I'll just go do it myself. And like before we broke up, my boyfriend challenged me to do an open mic there, and we broke up before I did it. But I was like, you know what? I'm still gonna do it. Who cares? Like I'm my own woman or whatever. And so I did it, and I killed the first night.
Nice.
And yeah, I was like, this feels amazing. It's like, oh, yay, I love it. And I felt like I was good at something. I felt comfortable. I was like, it made me feel so good. And then, interestingly enough, I met my current boyfriend at that first comedy show.
Nice.
And at first, like, he came up to me and he was like, oh, yeah, good set. And I was like, cool, thanks. And my friend, like, he walked away like, okay. And then my friend was like, oh, my God, he was cute. And I was like, no, he wasn't. And I was like, I completely forgot about him after that. And then, like, he friended me on Facebook and I just accepted and, like, whatever. And then Hooters was having, like, this deal. Like, if you bring a picture of your ex and you, like, shred it, you get, like, 10 free boneless wings.
That's so awesome.
Right? I was like, oh, this is great. I know exactly who to shred. And so, like, I posted on my Facebook. I was like, hey, who wants to do this with me? Like, it was mostly a joke. I was like, oh, this is, like, really cool. But then he messaged me, and he was like, yeah, I'll go do this with you. And I was like,
he's
okay.
like, excellent.
Yes. And I was like, all right, fine, I guess. And so we had, like, this whole, like, will they, won't they, like, really, like, ABC Family after school, like, drama, like, sort of thing happening where, like, everybody was like, so are you guys dating or what? And, like, we were like, no, we're not dating, we're just some friends, blah, blah. And everybody else was like, okay, we'll wait for you guys to get it together. Eventually, after a lot of... we were both pretty emotionally immature before we started dating and a little bit into when we started dating. And I feel like really just now we're kind of hitting our stride in, like, being in a committed relationship as two whole people who want the best for each other, but also recognizing that, like, I have my own mental illness that I have to deal with. He has his own, and, like, we've gotten really good at communicating to each other, like, through, like, hey, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z today. Can I vent to you? Or something you did, like, really bothered me, and, like, let's talk about it. And we just got really good at, like, having those rather uncomfortable talks that people tend to avoid, I think, especially people my age. I'm turning 23 in a couple of days.
When?
April 15th.
Oh, mine's April 30th.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey! April gang.
Are you Taurus?
I'm an Aries. No.
Oh, just on the cusp.
Yes, I'm an Aries. But yeah, but I feel like I've reached this threshold in acceptance of myself and love of myself because of him. Like, so I feel like a lot of people will be like, oh, if you don't love yourself, like, no one else can love you. And I have a huge issue with that statement, because being loved by him made me feel more valued, and it kind of counteracted that voice in my head that was telling me I was worthless, with, like, oh, here is a person that actually cares and loves for me. And it highlighted the good things about myself that I could also, like, see through the haze of depression and, like, low self-esteem and stuff. And so it's just, he helped build me up, and I greatly, like, that's why I love him. Like, he's like, every time I tried to direct my own pilot, like, right out of college, like a web series pilot.
Awesome.
It was a mess. It was bad. But the whole time, like, first of all, he donated to my campaign, and he's like poor, just like me. So I was like, "Whoa, dude! Like, you didn't have to do that," and like he didn't. But also, there were so many times where I was like, "I'm gonna quit. This sucks. I can't do it." And he was like, "Have you done everything you possibly can? Like, you can do this. Like, you just." Like, either it's going to turn out really good or really bad, but you're going to learn something out of it, like, either way. So, like, just do it for the experience, pretty much. And, like, he tried to, like, I'd, be like, I can't get the special contacts for the monster, and everything's going to be, and just, like, just weeping, like, all the time, like, due to stress. And, like, he was just there, like, just cheering me on, like, all the way. And even when it didn't turn out the way I wanted to, and I was like, I'm a failure. Like, I can't write. I can't direct. Like, it's all my fault because I'm a bad filmmaker. He was right there to be like, look, you've learned a lot, so you're already a better filmmaker than you were when you started. Not everything was completely in your control. Sometimes things just happen, and just, like, constantly just counteracting that, like, really negative headspace I was in, to the point where I could kind of grab on to his words like a safety line and, like, pull myself out of it, you know?
Yeah.
And then continue to try again, you know? So I just spoke a lot.
Of course,
did that
that's
answer
the
your
point.
question? Did that answer your question?
It answered a lot of them.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I mean, that's the whole. You're on this to speak the whole time.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's very normal.
Cool.
I usually only say a few things during most of my interviews.
Okay, cool.
Well, we're sending love to your partner.
Yes.
Sounds like an amazing person.
His name is Ty Clay. He's also a comedian. Check him out.
You wanna shout out how people can do that real quick?
Oh yeah, follow him at. I think it's at I'm Mugging You.
So how about in the show notes at the end, we'll say where people can find your information and his as well. Does that sound good?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So you did that one, you went on stage and performed once where you met your current partner and you got that high. Mm-hmm. But what made it become, okay, this is what I want to do? How did it go from this one-time thing to let's do this?
I kept doing it, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed. It was validating to be like, hey, I think this is funny, or I had this observation, and for people to, like, vibe with it. And people they started asking me to do shows. And I'm like, oh, you really want me to do this? Like, sure, like, if you want, like, and, like, I realized that I could, like, make money just, like, talking for 10 minutes. And so I was like, and, like, the lifestyle of a stand-up comedian is, like, the whole time I've been in LA, all day, I've just done what I've wanted, you know? Like, I'm not in a rush to be anywhere, because I have to be somewhere, like, late in the evening or something like that. Like, I have all day to do what I want, explore the city, eat whatever, sleep, and, like, that's great. And, like, I'm not at the point now where I'm making, like, buku money. Like, I'm losing money on this trip. Like, 100% full disclosure, like, I paid to be here.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that me doing the shows that I'm going to be on, I consider it an investment in myself. And, like, I realized that I liked networking. I liked hitting people up, being like, hey, I'm Ameerah, here's what I'm about. You want me on your show? Or, like, have people coming to me. And the culture, like, I've met so many cool people doing stand-up. Like, I felt like I really found my family when I started doing stand-up. Like, not everybody in stand-up is a good person or amazing, but, like, I found my people, and so I wanted to stay in that world with my people, and just cracking jokes with your friends, like, you know, and I'm a night owl anyway, so it's like, yeah, the lifestyle is what kind of drew me to it, and also, like, I also want to be a writer on a TV show or mostly animated. I like cartoons a lot. And I figured, hey, if I continue doing stand-up, maybe somebody will see me do stand-up and be like, hey, you want to write for the show? Because it's just like, I could write, like I do write, but I feel like when you write and you have no representation, you know, and you're just like some voice from the Midwest, like, hey, you know, like your odds of like actually getting someone to look at your stuff is like really low. So I thought, hey, if I can show that I'm a good performer, that I can write, you know, on my own and I have like a distinct voice, like boom, somebody already can see like what I can do.
Yeah.
And it's just easier
Of course.
to like hopefully be booked to do things even without representation. So that's the way I'm thinking about it. Hopefully it works out like that. Maybe not. We'll
Inshallah.
see.
It'll work out.
Inshallah.
So, I mean, that sounds wonderful what you said, because a lot of what you've been talking about is going somewhere, and it sounds a little bit like because of bias or exclusion, not being able to find your community. And so it sounds like, from what you said, in comedy, you have found your community.
Yeah, I 100% feel that way. It's not without its struggles, though, because like the comedy world is just very white, especially in the Midwest, just a lot of white men. And in my friend group right now, I'm the only black woman. I'm trying to make more, you know, black woman friends, but you can't just exactly go up to every random black woman you see and be like, be my friend, because like that's not how it works. And also they're people too, and I may not like them, you know. But I found people that I trust and I care about, but it is not without its daily struggles, because sometimes I have to check people. A lot of comedians like to be contrarians and be edgy and say whatever, because comedy is comedy. As long as it's funny, you know, you can get away with it. And I'm a strong believer, like, especially for white male comedians, like if you're making fun of a minority group, like you're not funny. You know, it's there's like always exceptions to the rule, but I haven't met many that are talented enough to like do that. You know, there's one comic he's like the only white guy whose racial comedy I like, and that's Steven Taylor. What's up, Steven? He also is based in Kansas City, Missouri. He's originally from Louisiana, so he's like this big teddy bear with like a deep Southern accent, and I love hearing him talk about being from the South, being white and from the South, and like dealing with recognizing the racism in his own family. And like he teaches like refugee kids like American history and like English and stuff, and he has this one joke where he's like basically he's teaching kids English in a deep Southern accent. So you're gonna have like some Somali kids just walking around with like a deep Southern accent when they speak English, because that's how they learned it. I think that's so funny. And also, like, he was talking about how he was teaching them about, like, World War II. And whenever he says Mussolini, he goes, Mussolini. And so, like, all the kids do that when they say his name. And it's just so funny to me. It's like, that's, like, a lot of, like, white guys try to do, like, woke points or whatever. But Steven does a really good job of, like, just making it his own, you know, like this is from my perspective, this is what I see, and like he understands like where he is in relation to like all the stuff, you know, that he's talking about. Yeah. So there's like he's self-conscious, like he knows, he's very self-aware, and he's, because of that, he's able, and like he's genuine about it, so he's able to like just make these really fun like jokes. And like me personally, I never get like, you know, like when a white comedian is like starting to talk about like race, everybody's like, oh no, what's he gonna say? Please no. But like Steven is always just like, I'm just always ready to hear what he has to say about like anything. Yeah. But yeah, I have found my community. That doesn't mean that like I still don't have to deal with certain things. I don't think those things will disappear if I were suddenly have like all black friends, because it's just have its own sort of things that I have to navigate. But it's the quality of people versus microaggressions that I have to deal with. Like the balance is enough to where like it's worth being their friends. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Still bullshit that you have to do that.
Yeah, you know, it's America. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just highlights the privilege that a lot of white people don't even have to consider that.
Yeah, I have a friend, Jake, who, like, I really sat down with him one time and explained to him how I felt being in the friend group. And he was like, all right, cool. I'm going to try and notice those situations where you might need my help, you might need my voice to feel more included or, you know, check somebody. And, like, he's actually followed through with that, you know, promise. So, like, people like that are, like, few and far between, but I really value it because a lot of people can, like, say whatever, you know, but when it's actually time to do, you know, that's when it really matters.
We had a comic on a couple episodes ago, Summer, her name is, and we talked about, too, that comedy is also super sexist. Like, I've booed many a comedian who thought it was funny to tell a rape joke or just boo, and there's like 10 of us in the audience. So how do you navigate? And, you know, that's a really big conversation in pop culture, comedians with...
Yeah. So we had a whole thing happen in our scene where a comedian was accused of sexual assault, and there are very few women in the scene. It was like me and my two friends, and we were upset about it, obviously, and it kind of started this conversation about how can the men comedians create a culture in which sexism and violence against women is not acceptable. You know, it's not funny, it's not like, oh, he's just making a joke, or like, you know, oh, we know him, like, he's not a rapist, like, you know, it's and so, like, we had a whole conversation about it, and a lot of the guys seemed to acknowledge that they had not been pulling their weight in terms of, like, checking other men about things that they do or say. So I respect them for it. Recently, that comedian that's been accused of sexual assault has been found not guilty. And so we're all kind of gearing up for him to try and come back into the scene, and, like, we're all like, at least my friends, like, and the shows that they run, like, he's not allowed anywhere near it. Like, we don't want anything to do with him. And there will be some comedians, probably comedians I'm not friends with, and I'd be like, oh, he was found not guilty, so, like, it's fine, you know? Like, he's a good person, he was found not guilty. When we all know not guilty does not mean innocent, you know? He's not proven innocent, he's proven not guilty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like people misconstrued those.
Yeah.
I feel like my white female comic friends have faced more sexism than I have, just because we're in the Midwest, and so, like, they're very attractive, yes, and, like, men just try to say and do whatever, and I think because of the culture that they're born in, they're not as vocal as I am, because well, my partner thinks that I'm very oblivious, first of all, to, like, when men try to do or say anything with me, but I also put out an air of don't fuck with me. Like, if a guy comes up to me after a show and they give me advice about comedy, yeah, I'm like, I'll let him say it. I'll be like, yeah, tell me what you want to say. But, like, my body language is like, I know more than you. Like, you can say whatever, but, like, I'm not gonna give you that satisfaction of being like, oh, thank you so much for that tip. Like, I didn't know that. Thanks for teaching me. Like, no. Like, most of the time, like, I've been doing this longer than you, and I'm better. Yeah. Like, and I can recognize that and be like, you know. And I'm just very straightforward with dudes. I'm like, you need to stop doing X, Y, and Z. I'm not interested. Like, don't fuck with me. Whereas my white friends, they're taught to be more subdued, and Which, I mean, it makes sense because a lot of women, if you do try and like say something to a man, there is a very high possibility he'll try to hurt you. I have a Napoleon complex, so I don't think about that. Like, I'm 5 feet tall and I bounce between like 99 pounds and like 110. Like, so I really shouldn't be talking to guys the way I do. Like, I'm ready to throw down, but I just, in my mind, I'm like 6 feet tall, you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how I act. And therefore, it's so weird. Like, they don't want to fuck with me because I act like I'm 6 feet tall. Like, they could definitely take me. They just don't, because I just kind of exude that big dick energy, you know? And like, my friends probably don't really exude that. They feel like there's something that they can prey upon with women. Like, they're not into it, but they're not like outwardly saying, hey, get the fuck away from me, you know? So it's like, I don't have to deal. I feel like I don't have to deal with it. I could be just oblivious. But I have definitely had to step in and like check some people when they try to like catcall my friends and stuff. Because I remember one time my friend, she was like kind of down. She was having like a rough time with comedy, and she had come out to an open mic for the first time in a while, and she did her set, and we were leaving, and like she had made a joke earlier that equated like a microphone to like a penis or something, and the bartender shouted something at her that basically translated to like, you can, you know, give me a blowjob or whatever whenever you want. And I was like the first one, like all the male comedians were there, but I was like, fuck you. Okay, this is what we're talking about. This is fucking sexist. This is exactly the behavior that you guys should be jumping on. Like, why are you all looking like you don't know what to do right now? Like, her reaction was to just shut down and leave, whereas my reaction was to call this out and be like, guys, like men, if you want to be considered allies to women, if you want to be the guys that you claim to be, these are moments where you need to listen, realize, speak up, and like shut that shit down. Because if you do that, other men will listen to you. You have the power to create a culture in which that behavior is not acceptable. You know? But it's really weird because I feel like a lot of men are afraid to check other men. Because I feel like maybe they're like assuming they'll have to fight said man. But at least in my experience, and I'm a very small woman, if you just call a man out on his shit, like he's not expecting it, and he won't try to fight you because he's like, oh, well, it's not acceptable here to do that. I guess like I'll just fucking be quiet and leave, you know? Like, I rarely have I met someone that's like been called out and then like tried to fight someone about it, you know? And I'm a woman, like they could easily take me if they wanted to. But yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think like that last point you said, that however a woman reacts, either way, it's not her fault, that it's on us as men to, first of all, it's our fault for the sexism, what if I'm sexist to you, and then it's our responsibility to check each other. I think in general, one of the easiest ways for men to bond across race and culture is to bond over putting women down. And so if I was to stand up to another guy, I'd break this rule and then lose that guy privilege.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of men are afraid of losing that homosocial bond that men, heterosexual cis men, tend to engage in to bond, because they're just, I feel like it's being broken now, but that toxic masculinity, like associating that with like brotherhood and bonding, when it's in fact just dangerous, especially for women. But like it doesn't do men a service either, you know? Just enabling each other's bad behavior. Like, it's not good for you guys either to grow as people, to, you know, to raise boys who respect women and to raise daughters and treat women who aren't even related to you in any way, like, with respect. Like, that just puts out good energy. That just puts out positivity in the world, you know? And so it's like, it's not good for anybody, but it's especially dangerous for women.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well said. So this is depending upon the moon sighting.
Yeah.
Either the first, second, or day before Ramadan. So we just want to say Ramadan Mubarak to
Ramadan
everybody.
Mubarak, guys.
Yes, indeed. How has your relationship with God evolved over the years?
I recently got to explain this to my mom when I was in Japan, and it was during Ramadan, and I was practicing, and I was like in one of the deepest parts of my depression. I was praying, and I was like asking God, like, I need some sort of sign, feeling, anything to know that I'm like not alone, because I felt like I wanted to kill myself. Like it was a very, very lonely existence. And I didn't feel anything, like I didn't expect like, the furniture to start floating or anything like that. But to me, in that moment, I felt like God let me down. And so that's kind of also what really drove me to like take my mental illness into my own hands and not just pray about it like so many parents tell their kids who are religious. And like I believe in a God. My perception of him is more so, I call it like a scientist. Like those chain reaction videos, like where someone knocks over a domino and there's like all this crazy stuff. And like, I kind of feel like God is just a being that like flicked that domino, and he's just like kind of watching what happens as a result. So like neither evil or good, just a neutral being that's just watching the world unfold. And I also was like, the way I want to live my life and the way I'm going to live my life isn't exactly in accordance like with Islam. And I pride myself on being an honest person and like not hypocritical. So I'm like, I'm not going to pretend like I am like a practicing Muslim when I'm not. Like I'm doing things that aren't allowed in the religion. But so I'm not going to just like claim I am just because I was raised in it. Like I'll like recognize that like I was raised in it, yes, and I understand the culture, and like I have jokes about the culture. Like it's still something that I consider a part of myself. But as of right now, I'm focused. Like my view on life is to enjoy it and to do my best to spread positivity and like do good by people, while I'm here. And as far as death is concerned, like I vaguely believe in heaven and hell, but my perception is like I don't think I'm a bad person. Yes, I'm living with someone I'm not married to, but I love that person and we support each other and we're basically married. We just didn't say some words about it, in my opinion. So like that's not something I feel like I should be ashamed of or afraid of, because it's made me a better person. It's put out positivity in my life and hopefully in other people's lives, because I'm with this person and we encourage each other to be our best selves. And like my parents got divorced really like when I was like 11, and they were both practicing devout Muslims, and my father did not, like he was Muslim, but his behavior and his actions were not good, So to me, that lessened this kind of idea that I've been taught that like, if I marry a man and he's Muslim, like, my rights will be protected and like I will be, like that doesn't, like if he fears God, like, he will, treat you right. But like, that's not the case at all. Like you can be a pious Muslim and like treat your loved one like garbage. Like religion does not dictate who you are as a person. that's entirely up to you. And so when I was looking for a partner, religion meant less and less to me. And I'm like, are you a good person? Just like, regardless of if you believe there's a God or not, like, what kind of person are you? What is your character made out of? Because I wasn't just gonna accept just like, oh, he's Muslim, so I'll like he must be a good partner or something like that. That mattered less to me. And also for myself, it's like, is my character up to snuff regardless of if I believe in a God or not? You know, like, am I practicing positivity? Am I practicing accountability for myself when I hurt someone, when I do something wrong, you know, like, regardless of who I believe in or not? But yeah, so my relationship with God is just kind of like, he's there, I'm here, we're both doing our own things. I used to be very angry at God, and like kind of blamed him for like everything wrong that happened in my life. But I've gotten to a point where I'm just kind of like, everything is random. Life has its ups and downs when it wants to happen, you know. I don't know what sort of cosmic rules are being applied, if any, but you know, things are the way they are, and you just gotta keep pushing through the rough times in order to get to the good times, because you're gonna have both in your life at some point. And yeah, it's like, God, he's up there chilling, and I'm over here living my life. And you know, if I meet him after I die, and I mean, hopefully, it'll just be like, hey, game recognized game. Like, have a, I don't know, like, have a good eternity or something. I don't know what happens after I die.
I hope
no
that's
one
what
does.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah, game recognized game. Yeah,
You're in.
Like, where?
Just a head nod.
Yeah, just like, like as I die, just like, yep, all right, you good. Disappear into the ether, fam. All right. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think that what you said is really important. That so oftentimes we need to strip away the rules and the outward expressions of religion, and that it's at the core of who you really are. That truly matters in the end. For some people, religion helps them get to that core. For other people,
oh yeah, I don't bash religion at all. Like, whatever people need to help them get through life, because life can be rough. If like believing in God helps you feel not alone, helps you get through things, by all means, like, practice, sing, dance, pray, whatever you need to do. Like, that's you. It's just as long as you don't equate with religion equaling like moral substance. Exactly. You know, well like said. You know, like, believe in who you want to believe. Believe in the flying spaghetti monster. I don't care. You know, but as long as you're, you know, trying to be the best person you can be, regardless of what avenue, through Jesus, through Satan, through Allah, through whatever, like, you know, everybody has their own journey. Exactly. Yeah. And you said it, the other side of the coin is people who use religion as a mask for their badness. Yeah. So it's both things, and it's a spectrum. So you might have heard me say at the beginning that this is my year of grace. And so I explore with my guests whatever my theme is for the year. So what is grace to you? I've been actually practicing that a lot lately, really trying to actively work on that. So I'm a very honest person. People have described me as very blunt. And I try to do it because I really don't want to be misunderstood. Like, I really want to convey my meaning. And sometimes that meaning is, like, too sharp. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I used to be pretty, like, reactionary to, like, whatever people say that's, like, you know, whatever be, like, microaggression or something I don't agree with, or blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to learn how to let people, you know, do them. You know, I can probably try to say something, but if they don't want to listen to it, just, like, let it go. Like, that's grace for myself to, like, not engage with people that don't want to learn, you know? But also, I'm trying to learn how to better communicate with people my ideas, even if I am, like, kind of riled up or speak to people about difficult things in a not so much nicer, but just like more respectable and more graceful or whatever sort of way, so that I'm conveying my truth, but I'm not hurting someone unnecessarily in the process, you know?
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, no problem.
Where can folks reach out to you to learn about your upcoming shows? And if you want to plug any upcoming shows, and where can they reach out to you to tell you how awesome you are?
Guys, I am on Twitter now. It's taken me years to act like I had a Twitter for a while, then I finally got one. So you can follow me at Ameerah Sanders. And you can follow my partner. I think his username is Ty Clay Wants. You can just go through my retweets or whatever, and he'll be in there somewhere. And I think it's at I'm mugging you, because his joke on his bio is I want your money. Give me money for comedy. This is a robbery. I think it's funny.
That is funny.
So Ty Clay, Tyclay, Ameerah Sanders, AmeerahSanders. I post my upcoming shows there. I should probably start an email list. if I get enough Twitter followers and it gets to the point where that would be helpful and not just kind of conceited, I will 100% do that. Some upcoming shows tonight, which this will come out later, but I'm going to be at the Hollywood Improv Women Crush Wednesdays with Marcella Aguelo. Then I'll be in Arkansas on Saturday at Black Apple Cider Crossing. I can't remember. It's a brewery. They got beer. Let's see. I have a comedy festival in Milwaukee.
Woo!
Cream City Comedy Festival, May 9th through the 12th. So if anybody has a couch that I can crash on, that'd be lit. And then I'll be in Colorado the first week of June, bouncing around between Denver, Boulder, some other places doing shows. And then another festival in July, Wichita, Kansas, the 12th through the 13th. Yeah, just a lot of things.
That sounds good.
A lot of things.
So Ameerah's social media links and her partner's social media links are all going to be at show notes. TomRell.com/Ameerah. TomRell.com/AMEERAH is where you can find all of the links that we mentioned. I want to thank you so much for sharing everything you did during this interview.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me stay at your place for free.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Yes.
So here's our ritual, how we end.
Okay.
Is you get to share the last thought idea. What would be your invitation to all of the people listening or watching this? What's your invitation for them to do, to be, to consider, to think about, to experience? What's your invitation?
I invite you all to dare to do what your heart desires. I feel like a lot of people are shamed for things that bring them joy. If the thing that brings you joy doesn't hurt anybody else, go try it. My mom didn't think I could do stand-up. And here I am. So, food for thought. Just dare to be yourself. It's very hard to do, but once you do it, it feels so much better. That's it.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for sharing your gifts with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yes.
And to all those listening, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at TomEarl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.